Buenas tardes. As I've been introduced, my name is Ernesto Felix, proud Latino and Mexican American, also an employee of Intel Corporation. Today I want to talk to you about three things. I want to talk to you about the job outlook for 2020, the importance of education, the diversity business case, and use Intel Corporation as a case study, and embracing who you are. As I said, I am a proud Latino, Mexican American, but that wasn't always the case. For a part of my adult life, I was confused. I had an identity crisis. I was born and raised in Nogales, Arizona, right on the border with Mexico. For the first 18 years of my life, that was the center of my universe. My family and I, we didn't travel a whole bunch. I remember weekends, we used to go across the border, or al otro lado, like my mom used to say, to visit my aunt and my cousins. You see, my aunt, my tia, operated a little store from her house, a tiendita. And I used to love to sell candy, popsicles, and sodas to the neighborhood kids. In high school, I was into sports. I was on the varsity wrestling team for 3 years, and I graduated fourth in my class of 235 students. When it came time to go to college, I said, I want to go to Arizona State University, 3 hours north of Nogales. And I had a different experience. I wasn't in the majority anymore. My junior year in college, I had an opportunity to go into Mexico as an exchange student. And that was an eye-opening experience. But more about my experiences later. Let's talk about today and the economic outlook. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the jobs that will become available between the years 2010 and 2020 are over 51 million. 20.5 million of those jobs will be new to the economy. 31 million will be vacated by the retiring baby boomers. What industries are going to be thriving? Healthcare and engineering services are expected to grow by 20% each. The aging workforce is going to require more healthcare. The infrastructure that our country needs to get built is going to fuel the growth in those two industries. Management, consulting, and accounting are expected to grow by 17 and 18%. Semiconductor and circuits, along with software development, by 16% each. We live in a connected world, and semiconductors and software make that connection possible. I mentioned 51 million jobs. A lot of the jobs that will be available will be in STEM careers. We're going to need more engineers, more scientists, researchers to make this growth possible. The good news is that jobs will be available by the year 2020. Education. Education and continued learning are going to be the gateway to make the most of this growth. When you land your first job, it is important that you continue to keep your skills current. It is important that you get involved and stay involved in your education. Education is not only important to you and your careers, but it's important to the country's economic growth. Experts have tied that economic growth and the education levels of the workforce are tied together. Researchers from Georgetown have said that graduation rates are stagnant today. They have also said that by the year 2020, we will have a shortage of over 5 million workers. educated workers. That, coupled with companies demanding a more educated workforce, they're going to want more people with masters and PhDs, is going to be good for you in this room. Those of you that are in STEM will have a bright outlook. Technology is the heart of this growth. The outlook is good, as I mentioned, for STEM majors. Now let's talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion and how that conversation is changing with corporations across the US. The conversation is going from, we have to do diversity because we have to be compliant, to, it's not only the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Companies with the highest levels of racial diversity have generated 15 times more sales than those with lower levels. Firms with females in C-suites, in the executive suite, generated 44 million more in revenue on average. And diverse teams are more productive than non-diverse teams. 57% increase in performance when you have a diverse team. Let me tell you what we're doing at Intel in the diversity and inclusion space. At Intel, we have over 105,000 employees, 170 offices located in 70 countries. 80% of our workforce is technical. Our mission is to utilize the power of Moore's Law to bring smart, connected devices to every person on Earth. At Intel, we employ very smart people. Our leadership recognizes that diversity in the workforce is essential and key to innovation. We cannot make our mission a reality if we don't have a diverse workforce and an environment that is inclusive. Now, our CEO went on the world stage in January of this year. Brian Krzanich told the world at the Consumer Electronics Show that a fully diverse and inclusive workplace is fundamental to our ability to innovate and deliver business results. He didn't stop there. He said by 2020, Intel will achieve full representation in our US workforce at all levels. Our engineers are making this connection, our data, the world that is connected possible. They are designing products across many product sectors. Our data center group, our perceptual computing group, our Internet of Things group, security group, client computing group, they are designing products that will change the way we do business and the way we live. Intel is recognized as a great manufacturing company, a hardware company. What a lot of people don't know is that we are one of the largest software employers in the industry. We're going to continue to look for smart people. We're going to look for engineers, computer engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, environmental, chemical, just to name a few. We've had a robust diversity and inclusion program since 2002. We have an employee resource group program that is world-class. There are 29 different employee resource groups at Intel, with 150 chapters located worldwide. We have 5 different leadership councils. We have a women's leadership council, Hispanic, African American, Native American, and veterans. They are comprised of the most senior leaders in our company in those communities, and their focus is on moving the needle in the diversity and inclusion space. So how are we doing since our CEO put us on the world stage in January? Well, we released a mid-year report, and our 2015 goal was that 40% of the US hires would be women or underrepresented minorities. At the mid-year report, I'm happy to report the actual number is 44%. Intel is committed to diversity and inclusion. Intel is committed to the Latino community, the Native American community, the African American community. Intel encourages its employees to become involved in the community. Not only to become involved, but become leaders in the community. As was mentioned earlier, I am a member of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, SHIP, and I am on their board of directors. SACNAS and SHIP have very similar missions. They play a key role in advancing and building our technical workforce. If this country is going to continue on an economic growth path, we need engineers. SACNAS and SHIP and organizations like that need to continue on that path. So back to my story. Recap. Grew up in a small town, spoke Spanish daily, surrounded by a lot of Latinos. I ate frijoles and tortillas. College time came around, and I said, I want to go to Arizona State University. What I didn't tell you before is that in Nogales, I was Ernesto. I traveled 3 miles north, or 3 hours north, and I became Ernie. I did that in an effort to fit in. So now I am at Arizona State University, and guess what? My new friends at Arizona State referred to me as the Mexican. Here comes the Mexican. You know, and they weren't doing it in a mean-spirited way, so I didn't think anything of it, because after all, I am Mexican. All right, so now, in my junior year in college, I got selected to go to Mexico and be an exchange student. I was really looking forward to go into Mexico to experience the culture. I wanted to see if the culture that I grew up in a border town was any different further south in Mexico. And guess what? I arrived to Monterrey, Nuevo León, Mexico, to study at the Autónoma de Nuevo León, and my new friends referred to me as El Gringo. I was confused. I was a confused young man. I came back from my experience speaking perfect Spanish, but very confused. As I came back, during that time, the Supreme Court upholds the EEOC's authority to seek class action relief for victims of discrimination. That was a big deal to me back then. And I decided that I did not want to get anything because of my cultural background. I did not want to get anything because of my ethnicity. So I did not embrace it. I covered. Covering is a strategy that today 63% of Latinos employ in the workforce. Kenji Yoshino, he is an expert on this. He wrote a book, Covering. He's a Yale graduate. He says that when you cover, you expend energy. You place a tax on your brain that doesn't allow you to be at your best. My covering strategy went on for years because, of course, Kenji Yoshino hadn't written the book by then. And I covered. I attended a conference years later, and my name badge had Ernie Felix on it. And I got to talking to a gentleman that was right next to the booth, next to mine, and his badge said Ernesto. And we got to talking, I said, hey, we have the same last name. And he said, no, we don't. He said, yours says something different. You know what? He was right. I was confused, and that was my first step towards recovery. It was my first step to recovery, and I said, I realized that I needed to embrace my culture. I told people that I was Latino. I started to be proud of my culture and my heritage. And you know what? Things started to happen in my life. At Intel, I landed the job of running our human resource department in our Latin America office. And I lived in Sao Paulo, Brazil for over a year. I returned back from that assignment, and our chief diversity officer asked me if I would be interested in starting the Hispanic Initiative Program at Intel. Now, I got those opportunities not only because I was good at what I did, but because people knew that I embraced the culture, knew that I was passionate about the culture, knew I was passionate about my people. I love working at Intel because you are encouraged to be your authentic self. You are asked to please bring your whole self to work. In conversations, I am expected to bring my whole self to work and be my authentic self. And I encourage you, in your conversations, whether they are personal or business, to bring that authenticity to it. So, as we move on in our careers and in our lives, know that we have choices. Being your authentic self drives you to be your best, and it leads to opportunities. If you want to be at your best, I say to you, do your homework and know what you're good at. I also say never stop learning. And be your authentic self. Don't forget where you came from. No te olvides quién eres y de dónde vienes. Muchas gracias. Thank you.